Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Sunlove update. Today, Jessica and I are going to be talking about our packaging, including the legal side. We're going to be talking about elephants and how many acres you need to raise one successfully. We're going to be talking about interns and what our marketing strategy is going to be for our product, which the launch of which is just right around the corner. So come on into this conversation and hear all of the fun Sunlove news. So before we started this recording, our producer Gabriel had an amazing idea. I don't know, somehow, Jessica, we were like talking about like showering, right? And like
we both mad rush to take a shower in the middle of the day, just fitting it in.
Yeah, because there's a lot you juggle, and so sometimes you end up in hilarious situations. And you were telling me this story about an investor or like mentor meeting that you went to once when you first had Zoe. And I was like, that sounded really painful. So you like, what did you do?
In a few ways. I get to tell the story. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was when I was starting Carmela. Early on, first couple years of the business, I had this like potential investor, woman who had asked me to come have a meeting with her at her office, and she was kind of a big deal. And
still is.
She still is. She's cool. She's actually kind of evolved into being like a really nice mentor of mine. But at the time, it was my first time meeting her, and I was like a little bit nervous, and I had just had a baby like maybe 2 months before or something. And for anyone who's done that, it's like, it's a bit disheveling on just like everything. And so I was driving to the meeting and kind of looked down and noticed that I really needed to shave my legs, and probably hadn't done it probably since the baby was born, honestly. And, was like, shit. And so essentially like stopped off probably at like a drugstore or like a gas station or something and bought a razor and like dry shaved my legs in the car before I went to the meeting. It was just like one of those like panic, like attempt to pull yourself together, or like perfume on the pig kind of moments, or I don't know what the expressions are, but you're just like,
it's a good one.
Mildly pull it together. So she didn't notice my dry shaved legs, but
yeah. So were you like driving with one hand and then like the other hand was like kind of down, trying to not cut yourself?
Like pulled over and did it real quick, but yeah. If anybody needs to do that ever, it actually works pretty well. And I don't know if I recommend it, but it's doable.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of stories like that about sort of like early phase startup where you're just like, you do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do. And speaking of early phase startup, I think it's like a good enough transition for Sunlove. And for those who have been listening to our show, you've noticed that we've been doing a pattern of an episode related to Sunlove where it's just Jessica and I. Maybe we talk about Carmela a little bit or one of our other businesses. And then in between, we have our wonderful guests on, right, where we get to have these interviews and lessons that we can incorporate into Sunlove, or that are just like these amazing human stories and that are authentic to share out. But going forward, I think we're going to try to do a Sunlove update every third episode. So here we are. It's our Sunlove update. And Jessica, you and I probably talk, what do you think, like every day for like an hour? It's like we have a pretty good kind of meeting schedule.
Yeah, we do. We're chatting quite a bit on a daily basis.
Feels highly necessary for a startup in its early phases where, right, I mean, some of our guests talking about, areas of strength or areas of geniuses. I'm thinking about Valerie, right? And like where you kind of shine, and you and I each have our realms, but still there's a lot of like joint decision making to do, or realms that we haven't come across yet as a team, right?
Yeah. And yep, there's those areas of expertise for sure. And I think there's an element that we're experiencing right now of almost like baton passing in a way, or like keeping the ball rolling. I just happen to have a ton of stuff going on in my life in general. And so that's one of the things that's nice about having a partner, because you've been able to really like take the reins on the very acute project that we're on right now of finalizing our packaging and really just like doing a great job of keeping everything moving along. Because I think one of the biggest challenges of startups is like not losing momentum. And we've talked about that a lot before, but it's such a big deal to keep it going. And sometimes, as much as like I want to be full speed, like full charge right now, like I'm so pulled in so many directions that it's nice to have like you on board helping not lose that momentum right now. So thank you.
Well, and I'll definitely pay back the favor at some point too when I'm being pulled in multiple directions, which is never fun,
Yeah.
as we all know. And yeah, it is a good partnership, and it's nice to be able to, make decisions together. And we have some big decisions that I was actually hoping to like kind of brief you on now, right? So without getting into specific names, because these are real people, right? I mean, we are kind of doing something cool. I mean, let's talk about our internship program a little bit. I mean, you're a UCSB alumni, and you went to that school, and UCSB is a great university. You know, has a great research program, and I had a lot of great conversations with those students for some Sun Love positions this week.
Yeah, so that's really been cool. So I did that talk back in February about entrepreneurialism at UCSB, and through my contacts over there and doing that talk, we've been able to kind of get in this like pretty good pipeline, it seems, of interns. Like I'm shocked by how many people have reached out, honestly. But yeah, and you've been going through the conversations and meeting with them. So how's that going?
Yeah, without sounding
They told me to stop sending you resumes.
Yeah, I think Saturday night at like what time is it? I think it was like 2 a.m. my time. I had like a resume come through, and I was like, had 10 conversations. And the cool thing about this pipeline, as you just mentioned, is everyone's really highly qualified. I think we'll be in a situation tomorrow when we have our weekly chat with Johanna, our chief creative officer. We'll have to make a hard decision on who to take, but like everyone's highly qualified, everyone's super passionate, and like many entrepreneurs I've met, they kind of have that right entrepreneurial mindset where they're doing more than one thing, but they're confident in their ability to be successful, right? They have a clear vision for what they want in their career, what they want in their out of an internship, and they have like really great ideas to bring to the table. And that's like one of the blessings, I think, of being able to get an intern who's in school currently or freshly out of schools. That I think, Jessica, you mentioned it. It's like they kind of know, without making myself sound really old, they like know what's cool. They know it's trendy, and
yeah, like there is an element of that. Yes, when you're like not just out of college, like us, especially me, there's like things. Luckily, I have some teenagers, so they kind of keep me relatively in the loop, but I'm totally out of it, to be honest. Yeah, like they might know like things that we just haven't thought of yet. So it's kind of cool to be like working with people who are just getting started and they're like fresh and have fresh ideas. And it is fun to see the ones who are like highly motivated, and you can see that in them. And that's, it's great. And I've had some great interns over the years at Carmela too, that like were really, really smart people, and was like really fortunate to have them. So it can be a mixed bag depending on who you get, and I think how you manage them. And that's another thing you've been really good. We had one intern so far, and you were really good about keeping her on track and like managing her workflow and helping her along so that she could do a good job. Because I think that is a lot of it, just like managing people. So
yeah,
that's a big component.
I know we've shouted out Lauren before, and she did a really great job for us.
Yeah.
And really happy she went ahead and took a strategic communications role at a big insurance firm, and wishing her all the success in the world. And it's hard, especially for the first person you bring on. It's kind of like the first thing we had Lauren do was we gave her a very, very messy Google Drive, and we're like, hey, can you please help us organize? Yeah. Here's a good way for you to get oriented onto everything that's going on, is like, what would be an organizational system? We had some loose folders that would help bring clarity to a situation where there's separate initiatives and streams, right? We have multiple products in development and multiple stages. We have this podcast as a component of our marketing, but also it's a standalone thing, and bringing light to that. And I think Lauren was so great because she was able to set up those foundational elements and bring us on and like help us figure out how to evolve that role in the future, right? And when I'm thinking about the people we need for our organization, we really need, whereas we had a general intern with Lauren, it's like, then we sat down, we decided we wanted to bring on two positions, right? A marketing and sales intern and a business administration intern.
Yeah. And again, like obviously interns are a great way to, when you're kind of getting going and you have a limited budget, it is a great way to like boost a little bit of manpower behind what you're doing. And yeah, right now it seems like our needs are definitely marketing, and luckily I feel like that's kind of like a popular internship for people in college, especially. And then also a business administration and like just like that behind the scenes, highly important role that we need also. So yeah, I can't think of like, I don't know. We talked about if there was like any other needs we had, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Those feel like the most relevant to me, but there probably are others.
I think so too. And I mean, because we have the product, and we'll talk about a product specific update, I think, later on. But next thing after we have the physical product in a warehouse is raising awareness and bringing the product story to our consumers, right? One of the things in the interview process, I was asking each of the individuals we were wanting to bring on, right? And to be clear, I don't expect anyone to have an answer to the question, but really, when I look at the candidates, I was really trying to find people who just like are confident in their ability to problem solve and have like a good instinct for brand, right? So it's like some of the things the candidates we'll talk about tomorrow brought to the table that I really loved is they were talking about like knowing who your consumer is, right? Doing segmentation for marketing campaigns, exploring like different omni-channel sales strategies, right? And in terms of like a different position, I think there was enough good people where we could actually split up marketing and sales and create two distinct roles, right? But then the trade-off there is it's just more management, right? But I think maybe in this case it would be warranted based off of some skill sets that would really benefit each other.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't hurt to try.
Doesn't hurt to try. And the other thing that's cool is when I think about the internships overall, we're really building the infrastructure of what the organization of the future, what Sunlove would look like in a year or 2 years or 3 years, right? Because marketing and sales are different capabilities.
It's kind of like starter roles, like kind of like planting the seed of like where things need to start growing from.
Yeah. And they report to different people, right? Because you're, as the founder and CEO, everyone reports into you, but a marketing and sales person reports into Johanna, and a business administration person reports into me, right? So it's like setting up these different structures that enable your business to grow, that have clearly defined roles and objectives and responsibilities. And so the other role, the business administration role, I think is a lot has to do with the strategy side, right? And helping with the the supply chain and helping with enabling our team to have the right tools, right? And like searching for opportunities to get into trade shows, right? And and so there'll be some fluidity, right? Because that could also be something that marketing does as well. But I think the more specific that we can be with the expectations and having just like clear communication, the more successful the roles will be, right? And hopefully by the time we're at the end of the year, then we'll be able to transition these interns into our first employees, right? Depending on where revenue is or individual performance or all of those other factors.
It's a good way to, again, when you're like starting with like limited resources, it's a great way to like kind of smoke and mirror your organization too, like helping out with the marketing and sending out press releases, and you appear bigger than you are when you have a bigger team behind you. And there's something to that, I feel like.
Yep. Yeah. On the marketing side and press release side, I knew that was something that you did with Lauren, where you kind of worked with her in building out like some media enablement. Like, could you talk through those different starting points? Because I think that's a cool thing that we could talk about. Because if anyone wants to create like a media plan, I think those would be like core components of it, right? That would really help them be able to raise awareness for whatever brand that they're trying to promote or business or startup that they want to bring into the world.
Yeah, I mean, like my experience with marketing is like pretty much just self-taught in a lot of ways, kind of like everything I do, but like learning from other people who do it. So I've worked, alongside marketing people before, and you kind of glean the information. And PR's I think it's a tricky business because, on the few times that I've paid for PR and for my businesses, it's always very like questionable, like where the hits come from. Like when you get a press hit, like there was some stuff with Hotbox where I don't remember the exact details, but it was like we were featured in Goop, and they, it was like everybody was taking credit for it, like different, like all like my like marketing person, but then I was like, but I had that conversation too, and like it was just kind of funny, like you don't know, and sometimes that's the magic of PR, is that it's that almost like 100th monkey kind of like collective consciousness effect where it just starts putting it out there, and then stuff comes back and you're like, I don't really know where it came from, but it did. And maybe if we were only doing this one thing, it wouldn't have, but who knows? But but it can get frustrating with PR too if you're paying for it, because then you're like in that case, I just kind of remember being like, not specifically annoyed that I was like, I'm pretty sure that one came from me, and like, why am I paying for PR? Like that kind of thing. But I don't know. But so like working with PR agencies a little bit, and just like having like some marketing type people like on the team, and just using common sense. So it's like really at the end of the day, a lot of it is just like creating like a really solid list of contacts, and it's about nurturing those contacts. So really good PR people are the ones who are really kind of like outgoing and friendly and good at making connections and good like connectors, and they know how to start conversations and like lead it somewhere and make stuff happen and form collaborations and partnerships. And I mean, a lot of that it's just like it's just people connecting other people. Marketing's obviously kind of different. It's more strategic plans, I guess, to target people rather than just like nurturing those connections on a more personal level. But at the end of the day, I think anything is relationships, and that's kind of like the core of marketing. So I think there's a ton of power in kind of the more guerrilla marketing tactics because of that, because, you know, nothing is better marketing than word of mouth and someone who's really like excited about talking about your product or your business. And so I think those are the kind of, that's why like influencer marketing is so powerful, because people just go like, oh, okay, they like it, I want it, you know. So
Yeah, we're
yeah, so
only
like with
human
Lauren,
after all, right? So it's like the more human and authentic it is, like the more it's going to resonate with us, right? When you
yeah.
see someone do something, there's a mirroring and a desire for connection that really is a driver there, I think.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I mean, I think it is an this is why it's great to have the more like current, like younger people on the team, because they'll probably be a lot better at this. But I think there's a lot of opportunity right now compared to maybe like 15, 20 years ago. Marketing was a lot harder to make an impact, and there's just like a lot more you can do on a more grassroots level via like social media, particularly, that can, I'm kind of slowly reading this book by Gary Vee called Day Trading Attention. I think it's his newest book, and it's
Nice.
all about like the world of social media marketing as it currently sits. So like I just remember one thing he said that got me excited recently was he was talking about how basically like a mom and pop kind of like startup, and he even used the reference of like I think a skincare brand or like a something like I think it was skincare. He said a skincare brand can have the same, if they do certain things right via social media, they can basically have the same impact as a huge, well-funded company, just based on the fact that it's like the playing field has kind of been leveled in a lot of ways, which gives a lot of advantage to startups right now. And
Yeah.
so he was like very inspirational on that topic. So and I think there's a lot of truth in it. It makes sense. Like you can access people ways that you just simply couldn't before. And so, yeah, the book is really cool. It has a lot of tips about like specific ways to think about things and like strategies to try. And, a lot of his thing is like content. Like, don't worry so much about being so precious or perfect. Just get the content out there as much as possible. And I think he's a big promoter of like utilizing like all the different platforms, which is something that I feel like we've embraced, especially with this podcast, which was kind of experimental, I think, for like our producers, if I recall, because we were like, we should be on LinkedIn because we're talking about business and startup. And I think that was something that wasn't something that they had been putting stuff on in terms of podcasts previously. But I think we've been noticing good results from that. So it's just kind of like thinking like where is our audience potentially, and like how do we get there and do it. And so that LinkedIn experiment was kind of a cool one for us with this. But we had a really cool conversation recently with a marketing person, and she mentioned that some brands that she works with, they're seeing some of their biggest online sales success through Pinterest, which I never would have thought about because I just think that's like a pretty place where you make a mood board. But she's like, no, you can actually like certain products, and probably Sunlove would do really well there. Like they just kind of kill it like strangely on Pinterest. Like you wouldn't have thought of it, but I thought that was cool.
Yes.
So we're definitely going to do that. But
Yeah, Pinterest is interesting because they have such a rich platform and so much data. I know that every year Pinterest does a trends analysis based off of the prior year, like what they've been seeing in their boards as like a directional thing. So they have all these data points and they pull them together. And I've seen that they've been hiring for like product managers in a monetization point of view. So like, what do we do with all of our stuff, right? And so I think it's just interesting to see. I think Pinterest will continue to be a bigger player in that space, and their platform will be more valuable for businesses, right? As they look for ways to incorporate that. LinkedIn is interesting. I saw a post by someone I follow who's an influencer. I went to college with her. Her name is Erin, and she does like just tips for people who are working, like how to have a really good interview, how to talk to someone about PTO, right? Like how to stand up for yourself in the business world. And she was selected to be a partner for LinkedIn because LinkedIn is rolling out a video part of their platform, kind of like TikTok, right? Or Instagram Reels or YouTube, right? I think all the platforms are moving in this direction because people want to see that visual content, right? And we saw that kind of earlier with way before TikTok. The first indicator of that was Vines. I don't know if anyone remembers Vines, but it's kind of just making me think.
But
yeah. And then like the other thing too, it's like it's to that point about the book that you've been reading is that it's no longer it doesn't really matter anymore to you what you're saying, like how big your enterprise is. It doesn't matter how many followers you even have on Instagram. What gets prioritized is what content is performing the best that day on the platform, right? And that does really level the playing field. So creating that really like amazing piece of content, but not being too precious about it, so you just get something out there that could be lightning in a bottle, is really important.
Yeah, and there's definitely an element of luck, I feel, in all that, but I think you can't have the luck unless you put yourself out there and create that content. So
create the work, yeah. So if you were sitting down, I mean, I'm just curious to ask, if you were sitting down with whomever we decide to bring on as our marketing person, like imagine we're in a team meeting, what would be that first campaign? Like what should our first campaign be with Sunlove?
That's a really good question. I mean, I originally was thinking of it as more of like a almost like slightly mysterious campaign. Like I loved the idea of like the very initial sort of like hint at the business of like a little like risque like body in like water, skin, like something like some kind of vibe that's like, what is this? And like I always had this idea of like feel free, like the concept behind the first campaign I feel like should be feel free. I think I originally was thinking of somebody like skinny dipping in a pool, but we'll see if we do that. But it's like just allow yourself to like feel free, enjoy, be happy, like let go, and embrace the sun in that positive way and not be afraid. So it's like that antithesis of fear. It's like just feel light and free. I don't know if that's what we'll end up going with, but I think there's a lot of options, and I need to really like sit down and work with the new intern team on it and see what direction we want to go, and Johanna and everything. But I don't know. What are you? Have you had thoughts about?
I like feel free a lot. It's just interesting with time of year that we're launching the product is going to be end of fall and beginning of winter. And so
the timing is interesting.
Yeah, our consumer job to be done. It's, I guess, when I think about Sunlove, right, we want to create a world where people are more comfortable in their bodies, more comfortable outside, and our products are part of a lifestyle brand that enables that, right? So then the question is like, how do we make the sun a relevant problem for people to solve during the winter time? And then for some reason, my brain goes to skiing and snowboarding, right? It's like, what's the outdoor activity that time of year? But again, we'll just have to to workshop the ideas out. Because feel free could be for every season, right?
It definitely could be for every season. Absolutely. It's sort of just the energy behind the brand messaging. My sample bottle that we got from the manufacturer, and I have like this much left in it, and I'm starting to get nervous because I'm actually truly 100% loving the product. Like I promise you, like my skin is so much happier when I use it.
Looks great.
And looks so like glowy and nice, and I'm like, Zoe was like spraying it on herself this morning before school, and I was like, stop. Like, I'm like, you need to stop. That's all I have left until we get into production. She was like, okay. But so anyway,
Zoe can have her own Zoe can have
Yeah.
her own podcast, like growing up with a mom who's an entrepreneur, like
Oh
all
yeah.
nice, like
Yeah. Like the craziness of it all for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to go into production. So right,
Yeah.
we have our two manufacturers for each of the products, right? For the capsules, for the supplement, for the cosmetic um, mist, and we have two different lawyers, right? We have our cosmetic lawyer for for the mist, and we have our supplement lawyer for the capsule, the daily sun supplement. And there's different regulations, right? If you're in the supplement space, I'm sure you're already familiar with this, but the it's pretty strict, right? And so we had our first round of edits, and one of the big takeaways was that we were trying to make our supplement, which is you know, has its own class, feel too much like a cosmetics. We had to go back and make changes to the claims, make changes to the nutrition panel, make changes to the packaging of like the font and the letter size, right? I mean, it's pretty specific.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, in terms of the packaging requirements and laws, it is for sure. It's also like weirdly not in some ways. It's kind of like it's a little scary when you start getting into learning about supplements and skincare products when you realize that there's not actually like that as much regulation as people think. I feel like that's a big, like almost one of the first questions people ask is like, how much, like, it must be really hard. And it's like, yes and no. It's like, if you want to be above board and if you want to be protected as a brand and as a company and of your product, yes. But also, like, there's really nothing out there that stops people initially getting something going. So that's kind of crazy when you think about like stuff could be on the market that's like not really been thought through that well, not really heavily regulated, I guess. I don't agree. We're not taking that route, and I don't agree that that's how it should be. But it's just, it's just different than like, I guess food feels more regulated, which I guess is a good thing. But and maybe other countries it is, but for some reason, like in the U.S., it's like a little bit like you kind of can do it, but it's risky, and I don't think if you're trying to create something real, you don't want to be sloppy about it. So we've taken our time to really make sure that we're like not making any false claims, not like doing anything that will potentially put us in jeopardy later, as we grow our brand. And I think while that does add time at the beginning and expense and mild headaches in the process, it's time and money and headspace well spent because later we're like in a much better position to grow.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of these brands, no one really cares when you're small, right? If your revenue is under probably like 10 million or even a higher amount, no one's going to really like look into it. But at the same time, if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to be a big successful company, you have to have your eye into playing with the big dogs, right? And if you want to have a supplement product be in a Whole Foods is not going to let you on their shelf unless you come correctly, right? Because then that would be exposing themselves to unnecessary risk, right, and liability. And the same thing from a cosmetic point of view for Sephora, right? I mean, we very intentionally want to see the daily mist as a cosmetic product in a Sephora, and we developed our formula with Clean and Sephora in mind, right? We'll have other target accounts like Credo Beauty or other places, but none of those companies are going to treat you seriously if you don't treat the product seriously and like the brand that you want it to turn into. That's my firm belief.
So it's kind of like backing into it. It's like, what's the final vision? It comes back to that, like you vision where you're going with this. So like, what's the vision? Like a little, shelf at Sephora. Well, how do you get to that? Like, what's the requirements for that? So that's kind of how you back into it and like figure that out from there, from the final destination.
Final destination. It's all chess. But yeah, I love chess. So
You're really good at chess. Yeah, I would never play you in chess.
To qualify that, I'm exceedingly like mediocre, right? For those who play chess, my ELO, it like on it like a chess.com is like 1100 to 1200. So I'm very average, but I do like to play. Reach out. We can do some online games and like talk entrepreneurship, strategy, innovation, and how to see the end and back into it, right? How to get from where you are to where you want to be. To quote Jesse, which by the time this episode airs, his episode will be out. Jesse McMullen has a lot of great axioms or quotes or koans, to use that Zen word about entrepreneurship, that are very applicable. So I guess with the cosmetic product, we are waiting on our manufacturer to get back to us with the regulation, right? Which has to do with the net weight. So on your cosmetic product, right, we'll say like 50 milliliters and however many fluid ounces, and when you're manufacturing a product, the net weight, you can't just weigh it once and have that net weight be what it is. Our manufacturer does 300 samples before it says, here's the confirmed net weight. And that puts us in a bit of a chicken or the egg scenario, where can we put a net weight on our product, and then if they do, and then print all of our bottles and all of our boxes, our primary and our secondary manufacturing with the 50 milliliters. But what if the weight comes in different than that, right? Have we just wasted 300 units of product in terms of our primary and our secondary packaging, or do we need to, or can we move forward and just make the adjustment after that, right? So we're waiting for our manufacturer to get back to us with this piece of legislation.
I thought they're just double checking.
We're waiting on a
that?
follow up.
Okay.
And speaking of working with any firm, communication, right? And so we've definitely hit some delays where it's not a effort point of view. It's like I can send as many follow-ups as possible, but at a certain point there's a bit of duration that you just have to wait through to get the answer that you need to proceed. And it's a lot of managing those pieces, which creates the logistics of it.
Like we were working with other humans, and humans we're not machines, and it can be a big part of the challenge, I guess, to push things along and get results. Just when there's a lot of people involved, and a lot of people who are busy and doing different things and trying to get those answers, can sometimes feel frustrating, but you just have to stay on it, and eventually it happens.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun, right? If we were all machines, then we would be in a robot world, and then that would have its own problems.
Nobody wants that, yeah.
And then with the supplement, I think where we're at is we've had our supplement legal counsel provide all the feedback, and our manufacturer provided feedback as well. So once we get that incorporated, then we're done with all packaging revisions and all legal revisions for our product for this first round, which is really amazing because it's a process we thought we could get done like 2 to 3 weeks. It's probably taken a couple of months at this point to find the lawyers to have the review done, and then to get our manufacturer's feedback. Does that feel like, did I estimate it as too long of a time frame, or does that feel accurate?
That sounds about right. Sounds about right to me. Oh, you have an animal.
Oh yeah, that's that is Willie.
One of your cats?
Yeah, so he's named Willie because one of his eyes was really damaged. So of course I thought about One Eye Willie from the Goonies, because they just announced maybe they'll do like a Goonies 2.
I know. Cameron didn't believe me, but yeah, I saw that.
No, this is our time, and we have a lot of kittens around here because we're on a farm. So people assume that they can just leave their animals that they don't want, and that we'll take care of them. And for the most part, that's true. Like this is the fourth or fifth cat that I fostered this year.
At some point, you should probably talk about how your vision for having some elephants, which I think
Yeah,
is very, very big thinking on your part for the farm.
elephants. You need 100 acres for an elephant, and you need for each additional elephant that you want. I think it's like an additional like 80 acres or so if you just want them to like be able to like forage and live like just more in a natural state. Of course, it's not legal to own an elephant in North Carolina. You can't do like a Tiger King situation. But if I were, there were a couple of zoos for sale near me recently, so I could buy a zoo because they have the proper permitting, or I could open like a rehabilitation center or like a refuge for people who bought elephants illegally, where like the elephants need to come and heal before
Elephant sanctuary.
an elephant sanctuary. So yeah, I mean, do we have the space for elephants? Yes. Do I have the money? Because I don't think it's going to be very profitable to like start an elephant sanctuary. No, but if I won the lottery, that's like everyone has their own lottery dream. Mine would be elephant sanctuary.
Yeah.
Because then I'm part of the solution, not part of the problem, as far as elephants go. And then I could
Yes.
put elephant manure into the farm and be like, hey, like this hemp that I grew was made with like on fields that were fertilized by elephants in
Is
North
elephant
Carolina.
manure special?
Yeah, no one has that.
Only if it's coming from North Carolina, it would be.
Elephant manure special. Yes,
But
that's
we digress.
so regardless, the so what were you talking about?
Elephant manure.
Yeah.
The supplement packaging?
This supplement,
Or-
yes, we'll be done. And then we can spend a lot of money on manufacturing our glass bottles, which are our primary packaging, right? One for each SKU. Our boxes for the secondary packaging. Our pouch, right? Because the supplement has a refill option, which has a recyclable pouch so that you're not having to have the carbon footprint of a new bottle every single time. Plus, it comes at a discounted price because it's less packaging for our consumers and our customers. And then we'll have an inventory of product, which will launch through direct-to-consumer sales, right? And through Shopify and through Amazon. And that's just right around the corner, which is crazy.
Yeah, very excited. And then I'll get a fresh bottle of the mist for myself.
Yes.
Be so
and
happy.
one for Zoe.
And one for Zoe, yeah.
Yeah,
She has,
as long as she
everything of
creates
mine is
user,
hers now.
Yeah.
All of my skincare, all of my clothing, all of my shoes. I basically have nothing anymore that I can trust is going to be like there for me because she just ransacks everything of mine. She's 15.
Yeah, I guess this is a special mother-daughter, like probably relationship is true in a lot of places, right? That it's just kind of
the
like a
era,
part of growing up.
Yeah. Well, she still thinks my stuff is cool. Yeah.
I mean, that's nice. It's a good compliment. I mean, so as long as Zoe and like I could text Zoe, she can have product as long as her and her friends make user-generated content for us, marketing the product.
They're going to have to do some. Yeah. When
in
you were
other
talking
words-
about the precursor to TikTok before, I thought it was called Musical.ly because she used to do Musical.ly videos and they were like these TikTok videos. And then I thought it turned into TikTok later.
Yeah. I'm
Doesn't
thinking
really
about
matter.
like 20.
But she's like OG TikToker, basically, is all I'm saying.
She knows.
Yeah.
She knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, when I was young, YouTube was like new, and so like I was making YouTube videos, and unfortunately, I deleted most of them, but they were cool. Like, it's funny how young people that no one, especially if no one says like, "Oh, you can't make a YouTube video," will just pick up the technology and do it and be able to like create something.
Yeah.
And that's like it's part of the fun of the world we live in now. Um, yeah, so I was thinking about Vines, which was like everything was like a quick video. I think that was out in like 2012 or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so then the user generated content or the reel or the whatever for Sunlove, the Feel Free campaign or whatever it is, that's going to be really where we take our attention to next. Um, and so I think we have like a few cool influencers in mind that we'd love to like talk to about the product. Who's that surfer that you were telling me about?
Yeah. So Laird Hamilton, actually, I saw a interview with him recently, and it was almost like he was like preaching like all the Sun Love points that we like to bring up as a brand in terms of all the ways that the sun is actually healthy for you and positive. And he's like totally on it and then some. I have a good friend who's a good friend of his. So I was like, we need to get him on the podcast at some point. Not even to talk about Sun Love specifically, just to talk about the sun and like all
Yeah,
that stuff, because he's like, surfers are like the best people to promote something, about the sun, because they are
they
just in
live
the sun
it.
all the day. And so he doesn't like wearing sunscreen apparently, and kind of makes it, I mean, it kind of washes off anyway if you're out in the water all day. But, he thinks it's not healthy, which a lot of it isn't. So I get that. And yeah, so he's just very much into like the sun is so good for you, like you 100% need it. He has some really interesting, like smart insights on it. So yeah, it'd be really, really fun to have him come and just like chat about like his passion about like the positive sun benefits some point. So
Yeah. No, and get his take of like, has he heard of PLE before? Is this something that he would enjoy? I mean, if you see Laird, I mean, he's a guy who he
he's like a
looks,
wellness guru too.
yeah,
Like they have a whole empire. Yeah.
he looks like he does get the positive benefits from the sun.
He's
Like,
getting a lot of benefits from the sun.
yeah, he looks just like real focused and just like, within himself and like healthy.
Yeah.
And as I mean, and it's interesting, right? Like I'm looking out my window right now and it's pretty. There's trees, there's birds, but it's rainy, right? And I haven't seen the sun all day. It's just kind of gray. It reminds me of um, a situation where I live like, or maybe I'm in Seattle, and then not to be bad at Seattle, but like one of the things that it makes me feel is like kind of just less energetic, right? And even in its best, and the rain can be nice, but it's just so interesting the health benefits the sun has like on me mentally, and now that the days are getting shorter too, I just find like there's just like a tinge of melancholy to things, right? I mean, and I think
A
everyone
hundred
feels that
percent.
way.
No, it's yeah. I mean, say it what it is. It makes you depressed. Like some people more than others. Like if you don't see sunlight, it actually completely impacts your mood. I am highly affected. That's why I'm in Palm Springs so much. Like I lived in Seattle for a couple years,
Bainbridge,
and
right?
I lived on Bainbridge Island, and it's so beautiful there, but it is gray so much. And like it's amazing when the blue sky and the sun comes out, but when it's not, it's like those days are long. And like, not to be totally morbid, but like in the 2 years or so that I lived there, I like knew of probably about 6 people who committed suicide, like in that area, just in a short period of time, because it honestly has a direct impact on people's mood and mental health. So yeah, the sun is super important.
Yeah, and then you decided time to go back to LA,
I
where
was like, F this. Yeah.
time for ice cream.
Some people do better in that environment and they're like into it, but I like kind of question them a little bit because I don't understand it personally. Like it's just, for me, it's like, I mean, even in LA a couple years ago, we had like a really long gray winter, like so bad. Like the sun just never came out, practically. And I was going back and forth to Palm Springs every other week at that point, and I would back to LA and be like, oh my God, it's so great. And then as soon as I would get to Palm Springs, it would be like blue sky and like sunlight, and it felt so much better. And again, like I'm maybe more, I don't know if I am. I think like people in general, it just has that effect on you. Like when you have sunlight, it does something to your mood. And also obviously all the other things. Like it is, really good for like your sleep and your bones and all the different things we've talked about before. But like the mood, the mental health and the mood is probably one of the biggest things, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to call it sun love. It's like you're embracing it, but it's like it brings joy actually to like, enjoy the sun.
It does. I think it's easy, and it's an easy idea, which is nice, and it's a product that works, and I do think it's really going to resonate. So hopefully the next time we have a Sun Love update, we have like a really clear marketing plan and more product for you and for Zoe and for the world to enjoy. And so I'm
we'll
excited.
Send some down to Laird Hamilton too, and see if he likes it.
Send some to Laird. Send some to there's like another place that I think this would do really well is like is like in the Caribbean, or like more like tropical places as well. I was at an island called Petite Saint Vincent for my honeymoon, and Sarah Catherine and I were just talking to the people who work there and other guests, and I mean everyone there loves being outside and super conscious of the environment, right? And I think that's something that we could maybe get into in a future episode of like the product story. But even though we're not a sustainable first brand, we're not marketing through sustainability. We're doing the work to make sure the product is sustainable, right? Like there's nothing in our, like it's, well, we can't, we haven't tested this, so I'm not going to say
we can't put it on our bottles currently.
Qualify it, but it's a reef safe product, right? Because there's nothing that's interacting negatively with the reefs. And it allows you to enjoy the sun longer in a healthy way, right? And our packaging is a glass bottle, which is reusable, or a pouch or a paper that's recyclable. And, it's important, I think, to really bring that approach. I mean, we want to be something that is good for the people, good for the planet. And, I seriously just cannot wait. And, we'll have it all brought in kind of next time. Thank you for listening to our Sun Love update. And like I said, next time you hear from Jessica and I, we'll have a great marketing plan. We'll have product in hand and be ready to start selling it. So we can't wait to hear your thoughts on the product. If you enjoy it, what else you want to see from us, because we are developing other products, including a regenerative oil, and there's some other really fun ideas that Jessica, I know you've shared with me. But drop us a line if you'd like to hear from anyone specifically, or if you have questions or feedback for our show. And until next time, I hope everyone has a great day. Alrighty.